All right. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are doing a deep dive into something that's super important, especially if you're thinking of opening a restaurant in the UK.
Right.
UK Restaurant VAT.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a fantastic expert here to help us sort of break it all down, all the different ins and outs of VAT, all the different things you have to think about.
Absolutely.
So maybe to start, could you just give us kind of a quick rundown of what is VAT? Like, what is it in a nutshell?
Sure. VAT, or value-added tax, is essentially a consumption tax that's added to most goods and services in the UK.
Okay.
Now, for restaurant owners, this means that every time you sell a dish, a drink, or offer catering services, you're collecting VAT from your customers.
Right.
And then you're responsible for paying that collected VAT to HMRC, which is the UK tax authority.
So it's like we're a middleman.
Yeah, you can think of it that way.
Okay.
You're collecting it on behalf of the government and then passing it on.
Now, I've heard this term VAT threshold thrown around a lot. What exactly does that mean?
So the VAT threshold is a key figure that all businesses in the UK need to be aware of. Currently, it's set at £85,000 in turnover over a 12-month period.
Okay.
If your restaurant sales exceed this threshold, you are legally required to register for VAT.
So if we're like under that, we don't have to worry about any of this.
Not necessarily. You can choose to voluntarily register even if you're below the threshold, and there can actually be benefits to doing so.
Okay, so like what kind of benefits?
Well, for example, if you're making significant purchases for your restaurant, like new kitchen equipment or renovations, you'll be paying VAT on those purchases.
Right, yeah.
But if you're registered for VAT, you can reclaim the VAT you've paid on those expenses.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so it essentially could save you money in the long run.
That makes sense. So let's talk about the different VAT rates that apply to restaurants. I know there's the standard rate, but I've also heard whispers about a reduced rate.
You're absolutely right. The standard rate of VAT in the UK is currently 20%. This applies to most things you'd typically find in a restaurant setting, such as dine-in meals, alcoholic drinks, and catering services.
So if I'm setting my menu prices, I need to factor in that 20% VAT to make sure I'm covering my costs.
Exactly. You need to strike that balance between appealing prices for your customers and ensuring your business remains profitable. Now, as for the reduced rate, that currently sits at 5%.
Okay, so what falls under that reduced rate?
This is where things get a bit interesting. The reduced rate applies to certain hot takeaway food. For example, those classic fish and chips you mentioned earlier.
Oh, okay. So hot takeaway fish and chips are 5% VAT.
Precisely. But it's not as simple as just hot versus cold food. There are specific rules, and it can make a real difference to your bottom line as well as your customers' wallets.
So if I'm doing takeaway, I need to pay close attention to those specific rules.
Absolutely. Getting it wrong could mean overcharging or undercharging VAT, which could lead to issues with HMRC down the line.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So we've got the standard rate at 20%, the reduced rate at 5%. And is there anything else? Is there anything else we need to be aware of?
Well, there's also what we call the zero rate.
Zero rate, so no VAT at all. That sounds amazing.
It can be, but again, there are very specific rules about what qualifies. Some unprocessed food ingredients, for example, fall under the zero rate.
Okay.
So you wouldn't charge VAT on those when you sell them.
So that means that we could actually get money back on the VAT that we pay on those ingredients, right?
That's right. You can claim back the VAT you've paid on those zero-rated supplies.
Wow, okay, that's super helpful.
It's all about understanding those details and taking advantage of the opportunities to minimize your VAT liability.
All right, so we've got the standard rate, the reduced rate, and the zero rate. Anything else, any other surprises in the world of VAT?
There are also VAT exemptions, but these are less common in the restaurant industry. For instance, if you decide to run cooking classes at your restaurant, those might be exempt from VAT, depending on how they're structured.
Oh, interesting.
The same goes for certain charitable events you might host.
So it's not just about the food itself, it's about all the different things my restaurant might be doing.
Exactly. It's about the bigger picture.
Okay, so let's talk about registration. If I hit that threshold, I have to register, right?
That's correct. Once you reach that £85,000 turnover mark, you're legally obligated to register for VAT.
Okay. And what's that process like? Is it a big headache?
Thankfully, it's a lot simpler than it used to be. Most of the process is now done online through the government's website.
Okay, that's a relief. So no mountains of paperwork.
Not anymore. The first step is to create a government gateway account, which is like your online portal for interacting with HMRC.
Right.
Then you'll need to fill out the VAT registration form, providing details about your business, estimated turnover, all that good stuff.
So pretty straightforward.
Yeah, mostly information you should already have on hand. Once HMRC reviews your application and everything's in order, they'll issue you a unique VAT registration number.
Okay, so we get our VAT number, and then what? The fun begins.
Well, maybe not fun, but it's definitely where things get real. Once you're registered, you need to understand your ongoing VAT compliance obligations.
VA compliance. Okay, that sounds a little intimidating.
It doesn't have to be. It's all about being organized and setting up good systems to manage everything efficiently.
Okay, so break it down for me. What does V8 compliance actually involve?
Well, one of the biggest things is V8 accounting.
Okay, so V8 accounting, what's that?
It basically means keeping very detailed records of all the VAT you charge to your customers and all the VAT you pay on your business expenses.
So all those receipts for ingredients, equipment, even those late-night utility bills, I need to hang on to everything.
You got it. Every VAT invoice is important. Remember, you can claim back VAT on many of your business expenses, so good record keeping is key.
Wow, okay, so organization is key here.
Absolutely. You'll also need to file VAT returns with HMRC on a regular basis, usually quarterly. These returns summarize your VAT activity, how much you've collected, how much you've paid, and how much you can reclaim.
So it's like balancing the books for VAT.
Exactly.
And then once you've filed your return, you pay any VAT you owe by the deadline?
Precisely. Late payments can result in penalties, so it's crucial to stay on top of those deadlines.
Okay, this is a lot to keep track of. Is there any way to make this whole VAT compliance thing a bit easier?
There absolutely is. That's where technology comes in. Nowadays, there are some fantastic accounting software programs specifically designed to streamline VA management.
Okay, so like a VAT superhero to save the day?
You could say that. Good accounting software can automate a lot of the manual tasks that are prone to human error.
Right.
It can calculate VAT, generate those returns, and even submit them directly to HMRC. It takes a huge burden off your shoulders.
That sounds amazing. So no more late-night number crunching.
Hopefully not. But choosing the right software is important, and we'll dive deeper into that in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. I'm already feeling a little bit more confident about tackling this VAT thing, but I know there's still more to uncover.
You're right. In the next part, we'll explore some of the potential pitfalls, those mistakes that can trip even seasoned restaurant owners up.
Okay, I'm bracing myself.
We'll talk about penalties, VAT audits, all the not-so-fun stuff.
All right. Sounds good. I'm ready for it. See you in part 2.
See you then. Welcome back to our deep dive into UK restaurant VAT.
Yeah, so we've covered a lot of ground already.
Absolutely.
But now it's time to kind of dive into the maybe less pleasant aspects.
Yoy.
The things that can go wrong.
The pitfalls.
Pitfalls, exactly.
The things you want to avoid.
Yeah, and I think, one of the biggest fears for any business owner is probably penalties.
Penalties, yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay, so VAT penalties. No one wants to deal with them. But they are a reality.
Yeah.
And understanding what they are and how to avoid them is absolutely crucial.
So what kind of penalties are we talking about here? What are the things that can actually trigger a penalty from HMRC?
So there are a range of things that can trigger penalties.
Okay.
Late registration.
Okay.
Late submission of your VAT returns.
Okay.
Late payments. Basically anything that deviates from those deadlines and requirements set by HMRC.
Yeah. So time is really of the essence.
Absolutely.
Got to stay on top of it. Now, what about if we make a mistake? Like, what if there's an error in our VAT return?
So even unintentional errors can lead to penalties.
Okay.
Especially if HMRC views them as careless rather than genuine mistakes. So for example, if you consistently underreport your income to try and reduce your VAT liability,
Oh, right. Yeah.
that's going to raise some red flags.
Yeah.
And could lead to a much more significant penalty.
Compared to, like, say, a little math error or something.
Exactly. A simple mathematical error on a single return is likely to be viewed much more leniently.
Okay, so they're looking at the kind of the big picture.
Yes, they're considering the context and the overall pattern of behavior.
That makes sense.
So even those careless errors,
Yeah.
those penalties can add up.
Yeah, they can be pretty hefty, I imagine.
They can, absolutely.
So what can we do? What can restaurant owners do to kind of minimize that risk of making those mistakes in the first place?
I think prevention is key.
Okay.
And it starts with knowledge.
Yeah.
You really need to understand your VAT obligations inside and out.
So where do we go? Where do we go to get that knowledge? Like, what are the best resources?
Well, the HMRC website is a fantastic resource.
Okay.
It's full of guidance documents, webinars,
Okay.
even free online tools
Oh, wow.
that can help you really navigate the complexities of VAT.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to be like, reading some random blog post from 5 years ago and be like, oh, this is the rule.
Exactly. You need reliable, up-to-date information.
Right. And if I'm like really unsure about something, is it okay to like contact HMRC directly?
Absolutely. It's always better to ask questions and get clarification
Yeah.
than to just try and figure it out on your own and potentially get it wrong.
Right. Yeah. Get in trouble.
Exactly.
Okay. So knowledge is power when it comes to VAT.
Absolutely.
But beyond just knowledge, I know we've talked about it before, but I think it's worth kind of diving into a little bit deeper the role of accounting software.
Right.
In kind of preventing those errors.
Yeah, accounting software can really be a game changer. It acts like a safety net.
Okay.
It can automate those VAT calculations,
Yeah.
flag potential errors before they even become problems.
Okay.
It can generate VAT returns that are ready to submit to HMRC.
So it really takes a lot of that mental burden, that weight off our shoulders.
It does. It minimizes the risk of human error.
Okay, so I'm sold. Accounting software is like essential, I think, for any restaurant owner.
I would agree.
But there are so many options out there.
There are a lot of options.
How do we choose? How do we know what's right for us?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think the first thing is to ensure that the software is specifically designed for UK businesses
Okay.
and compliant with HMRC's Making Tax Digital Regulations,
Oh.
or MTD for short.
Okay. MTD.
Yeah.
I've heard that term thrown around.
MTD is basically HMRC's initiative to digitize the tax system.
Okay.
So you need to keep digital records for VAT and submit your returns electronically.
So no more like paper forms and all that kind of stuff.
No more paper forms.
Okay.
It's all done digitally.
So the accounting software needs to be able to like talk to HMRC basically.
Exactly. It needs to integrate seamlessly.
Got it.
So that's the first thing. MTD compliance.
Okay.
The second thing is ease of use. You don't want to be battling with a complicated software program.
Right.
That just makes things more confusing.
Yeah, it makes VAT even worse. So we want something that's user-friendly.
User-friendly, intuitive,
Yeah.
maybe even with some helpful tutorials or good customer support.
Right, like hold our hand a little bit through the process.
Absolutely.
Now, are there specific features that are particularly helpful for restaurants?
There are, yeah. Some software programs are specifically tailored to the needs of the hospitality industry.
Okay.
So they might have features for managing your inventory,
Right.
tracking sales by menu item,
Okay.
or even handling those VAT refunds for international tourists.
Hmm.
So it's worth doing some research.
Yeah.
Finding a program that really aligns with your restaurant's needs.
Like finding the perfect recipe, the perfect ingredient for your business.
Exactly.
Now, okay, so we've talked about, knowledge compounding software. But I think it's time to address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
VAT audits.
VAT audits,
Yeah.
the thing that keeps restaurant owners up at night.
Exactly.
So-
So let's talk about that. What can we do to prepare for a potential VAT audit?
So the first and most important thing is to gather all of your VAT records and make sure they are complete and organized.
Okay, so what kind of records are we talking about specifically?
Invoices, receipts, bank statements, VAT returns,
Okay.
anything that HMRC might want to see.
So basically everything.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, and how long do we have to keep these records for?
HMRC requires you to keep your VAT records for at least 6 years.
6 years.
6 years.
Okay, I'm going to need a bigger filing cabinet.
It can seem daunting,
Yeah.
but having a good system, whether it's physical or digital, is absolutely crucial.
Okay, so we've gathered all the records. We've got them organized.
Yes.
What's next?
Review, review, review.
Okay.
Go through those records with a fine-tooth comb.
Okay.
Look for any potential errors,
Right.
inconsistencies that might raise red flags for HMRC.
So basically doing our own little internal audit.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you do find any errors during this review process,
Yeah.
correct them as soon as possible.
Okay.
It's much better to identify and fix those mistakes proactively.
Right. Then have HMRC come in and be like, aha.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've prepared, we've reviewed.
Yeah.
But let's say, the day comes and we get that letter.
Okay.
HMRC is coming to do an audit.
Right.
What happens? What can we expect?
So The process will usually start with a notification from HMRC
Okay.
outlining the scope of the audit
Right.
and the information that they need.
Hmm.
So they'll provide details about what records they want to see
Okay.
and the time frame for the audit.
So we don't need to panic right away.
No, don't panic.
Okay, good.
It's just the first step.
Okay, so they'll request documents. What else might happen during an audit?
So they might also ask you some questions
Okay.
about your business practices,
Right.
how you handle VAT on different transactions.
Okay.
They might even conduct an on-site visit to your restaurant
Oh, okay.
to observe your operations firsthand.
So they might actually come to the restaurant.
They might.
Okay. Now, what's the best way to kind of handle those interactions with HMRC?
I think the most important thing is to be cooperative and transparent.
Okay.
Answer their questions honestly.
Right.
And provide the requested documentation promptly.
Hmm.
Remember, they are just doing their job.
Right. Yeah, they're not trying to, catch us out or anything. Now, what if we don't know the answer to a question?
Honesty is always the best policy.
Okay.
If you don't know the answer, just say so.
Okay, so don't try to make something up.
No, it's much better to admit you don't know something
Yeah.
than to try and bluff your way through and potentially raise further suspicions.
Okay, that's good to know. Can we have someone with us during the audit, like an accountant or a VAT specialist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You have the right to seek professional advice
Okay, good.
during an audit. And in fact, it's highly recommended, especially if the audit is complex
Right.
or if there are potential disputes with HMRC.
Okay.
A VAT expert can provide guidance.
Yeah.
Ensure you're presenting your case effectively.
Right. So they can be our VAT wingman, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay. So the audit's over. HMRC has reviewed everything. What happens next?
Well, the best case scenario
Yeah.
is that everything's in order
Fingers crossed.
and no further action is required.
Okay, that's what we're hoping for.
You'll receive confirmation from HMRC that the audit is complete
Great.
and you can get back to running your business.
Awesome. But what if they do find errors? What happens then?
So if errors are found, HMRC will instruct you to make the necessary corrections.
Okay.
So that could involve correcting invoices,
Right.
repaying VAT that you underpaid,
Mm.
or even claiming back VAT on eligible expenses that you missed.
So it's not necessarily the end of the world if there are errors.
No, not at all.
Okay.
It just means you need to work with HMRC to rectify the situation.
Okay. Now, what about those penalties we talked about earlier? When do they come into play?
Penalties are typically imposed when there are significant errors,
Right.
patterns of noncompliance,
Well,
or evidence of deliberate attempts to evade VAT.
okay, so not just a small mistake here and there.
Exactly. HMRC looks at the overall context.
Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, even for those careless errors, the penalties can add up, so
They can.
it's definitely something we want to avoid.
Absolutely.
So I think we've covered a lot of ground in this part.
We have.
Kind of the scarier side of VAT.
Right.
But any final thoughts before we move on to the last part?
I think the main takeaway here is that VAT audits are a normal part of doing business in the UK.
Okay.
They're not something to be feared, but they are something to be respected.
Right. So be prepared.
Be prepared, understand your obligations.
Yeah.
Put those good systems in place.
Right.
And you can navigate this whole process with confidence.
All right. That sounds good. I'm ready for part 3.
Great.
Welcome back to our deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored the kind of the landscape of UK restaurant VAT.
Yeah.
We've seen the good, the bad, and the potentially ugly.
The audits.
Some audits, yeah.
Right.
But now it's time to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about, okay, so what can we actually do? What are the tools and strategies that we can implement in our business to really make sure we're on top of this?
Absolutely. It's time to turn all of this knowledge into action.
Okay, I like it. So where do we start? Where do we start this VAT action plan?
I think one of the most practical tools
Yeah.
is a simple VAT checklist.
A checklist. Okay,
Yeah.
I love checklists. Keeps me organized.
It's a great way to stay on top of things.
Yeah.
So think of it as your roadmap to VAT compliance,
Okay.
making sure you're ticking all the boxes and staying ahead of those deadlines.
So what kind of things would be on this VAT checklist?
So it would start with the fundamentals.
Okay.
Have you registered for VAT if you need to?
Right.
Are you monitoring your turnover to ensure you don't exceed that threshold?
Okay, so being proactive, basically.
Being proactive.
Got it.
It would also include things like reminding yourself to charge the correct VAT rates
Okay.
on all of your sales.
Right. The standard, the reduce, the zero.
Exactly.
So,
Making sure you're issuing accurate VAT invoices with all the required information.
Right.
And keeping those meticulous records
Okay.
of every transaction.
so that record keeping is really key.
Absolutely crucial.
Yeah, we've hit that point home a couple times now.
It can't be overstated.
Right. It's super important. And I can't forget about claiming back VAT on my expenses, right?
That's right.
That's like free money for my business.
It is, yeah.
Okay.
So make sure you have a system in place for tracking those expenses and ensuring you have valid VAT invoices from your suppliers.
Okay. Those VAT invoices, like gold,
Big
keep
time.
them safe.
Absolutely.
Now, what about VAT refunds for international tourists? Is that
Yeah.
something that should be on my checklist?
If you cater to international diners,
Yeah.
then absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great way to enhance their experience,
Right.
attract more customers.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So this checklist sounds like a great tool
It is.
to kind of keep everything organized, keep us on track.
Your command center.
Yeah, love it. Now, we've talked a lot about accounting software,
We
and I
have
think we're both in agreement that it's kind of essential.
pretty much essential.
Yeah. But how do we choose the right software? Because there's just so many options. It can feel overwhelming.
It can.
Yeah.
So the first thing to consider is your business size and your budget.
Okay.
If you're a smaller operation,
Yeah.
a simple cloud-based program might be perfect.
Right. And bigger restaurants might need something a little more heavy duty.
Exactly, a more robust solution.
Okay. So it's about finding that right fit.
The Goldilocks fit.
Yeah. Not too big, not too small.
Just right.
Just right. What else? What else should we be looking for?
Well, as we've discussed before, make sure it's designed for UK businesses and that it's MTD compliant.
MTD. Okay. Yeah. That keeps coming up.
It's important,
Yeah. We've mentioned it a few times.
but it's worth reiterating.
Yeah, maybe just one more time. Give us that quick explanation of what MTD means for a restaurant owner.
So making tax digital means that you need to keep digital records for VAT
Okay.
and submit your returns electronically.
Okay.
No more paper.
No more paper.
Everything's digital.
So we need software that can talk to HMRC.
Exactly. Seamless integration.
Okay, got it. So
Yeah.
compliance is super important.
Crucial.
What else?
Ease of use. You don't want to be spending hours
No.
battling with a program that's difficult to use.
Right. Yeah, that's just going to add to the stress.
Exactly.
So user-friendly.
User-friendly, intuitive.
Okay. And are there specific features that are good for restaurants?
There are, yeah. Some software programs are specifically designed for the hospitality industry.
Oh.
They might have features for managing inventory
Right.
or tracking sales by menu item.
Okay.
So it's worth doing your research and
Yeah.
comparing different options.
Yeah, it's like choosing a good supplier.
Exactly.
You want to make sure they're the right fit.
Find the best fit for your needs.
And a lot of them have free trials, right?
They do.
So we can kind of try before we buy it.
Absolutely. Test it out.
Yeah, see if it works for our business. Now, we've talked about the practical steps.
Right.
We've got our checklists. We're choosing our software.
Mm.
But VAT isn't static.
No, it's not.
It's constantly evolving.
Regulations change.
Right. How do we stay on top of that? How do we stay informed?
So staying informed is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
It's like continuous learning for your business.
Okay.
So things like subscribing to industry newsletters, attending webinars,
Okay.
following HMRC's updates.
Right. So basically, be a VAT detective.
Exactly. Stay curious.
Okay. I like it. What about networking with other restaurant owners?
Oh, that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
Attending industry events or joining online forums?
Right. We can kind of share our experiences, share tips and advice.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So we're coming to the end of our deep dive here.
Yes.
Any final words of wisdom? Any parting advice for our listeners?
I think the most important thing is that if you're ever unsure about anything VA related,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out for help. Contact HMRC directly
Okay.
or seek professional advice from a VA specialist.
Right. So it's better to be safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Get that clarification. Well, I think that about covers it, right?
I think so.
We've explored the world of UK restaurant VAT from all angles.
Top to bottom.
Yeah. Any final takeaways that you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the main message is that VAT is a crucial part of running a restaurant in the UK. Understanding those regulations is essential for success.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be a source of stress or confusion.
Right.
With the right knowledge, the right systems in place, and a proactive approach,
Yeah.
you can navigate this world with confidence.
I love that. I love that message of empowerment,
Yeah.
not fear.
Not fear.
So thank you so much for joining us on this VAT adventure.
It's been a pleasure.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but hopefully our listeners are walking away feeling a little bit more confident,
Hopefully.
a little bit more prepared to tackle this whole VAT thing.
Absolutely.
So until next time, happy cooking.
And happy VA managing.
Exactly.